Frederick Buechner has a quote where he says, "God's will is where the deep needs of the world and the deep gladness of man collide." And that's really what's happened over these last 3 months with the Convoy of Hope interns. Through their time in Indianapolis helping with an anti-human trafficking awareness campaign, to the 7.5 weeks they spent in the Philippines, plus the training and the time in Joplin and other things in between, this team has met some deep needs of the world, and it's brought deep gladness to each of them.
We spent about a week in Indianapolis at an anti-human trafficking event with Free International and a few other organizations there, where we worked with the soap project, and we put labels on pieces of soap that went to surrounding hotels with a hotline number, so that if girls who had been trafficked saw those hotline numbers, they could give them a call and get an opportunity to get out of the lifestyle of being prostituted and being sold against their will. We just recently found out that two girls found the hotline number on a bar of soap that we had labeled at the hotels where they were staying. America's Most Wanted and Nightline both videotaped while we were there, and several of our hands were featured on the national broadcast of both of those shows.
Lipa was the first city that we went to in the Philippines, and we ministered with Pastor Romeo and his family, and we worked in a squatter village that's actually inside of his gated community, and we helped them put in a briquette press. The briquettes are made out of straw, paper, and sawdust, and it's like a round little brick, and it's used for cooking, and it causes less smoke, which a lot of the children in the community have asthma and coughing problems because they cook inside the home. So this is a way to lessen the smoke, and it's also easier for them to gather the materials to burn to make these, and they can also sell them at market to make money for their family. But the coolest part about the briquette press was everyone from the community, all the ladies, they came and they gathered the materials, they sat down with us as a team, and we all did it together. And we did a demonstration one day, and just to see them all come, just to see their faces of, I did this. This is something that will better my family and my community and the people that I love. It was just that one simple thing brought tears to my eyes, because we're helping them improve their life. Convoy is helping this family.
Along with all the projects that we did for Convoy of Hope, each of the team members were able to take their own personal gifts and talents and share them with the kids and encourage the kids to find their gifts and talents. It was really cool to see all of that come together.
The time we spent in SWU was very awesome. We got to use our talents that God gave us to teach classes. And it was a privilege for each individual of our team to be able to show our talents that we had and be able to teach those kids. We taught sports, arts and crafts, painting, photography, guitar, and self-defense. And it was just amazing to be able to minister to those kids through that and spend time with them. And what was so amazing about it was the kids there were already so talented, so anything that they picked up, they were good at. And it really inspired us as a team, and kind of reminded our team that we're called to be more in Christ. You know, Christ came to give us life, but He wanted us to have life at the fullest. And those kids, you could see that they lived life to the fullest, and they really gave it their all at everything they had, and it was just a blessing to see that, and it really inspired our team.
We were able to spend 3 weeks in Cebu, and we were working at a children's ranch called Happy Horizons, where some of the kids had been rescued from sex trafficking. And so being there for 3 weeks, you were really able to get to know the girls and learn their stories, and basically what these girls have been through has been like the worst thing that anybody could go through. They lived a nightmare, and on one hand, it's really hard, to think about the things that they had been through. But on the other hand, knowing God and seeing what a healer He is, and to see that He could take something so horrible and just take something that's so broken and turn it into something beautiful. It was really incredible. And, you know, these kids, they really were. They were beautiful, and they knew who they were in God, and God's words were on their lips, and you could just see, like, throughout the whole ranch, like, they were prayed over, and God was there. And they had also asked that we come and start digging a tilapia pond for them. So that was a lot of hard work, a lot of digging, but we were able to get in there and get that pond dug, and so we're excited to see, you know, in years to come, what kind of things that pond produces for them.
In December 2011, the city of Cagayan de Oro was hit by a typhoon. They received a month's worth of rain in 24 hours, and it raised the riverbed water levels to over 30 feet. And it left over 88,000 without homes. Homes were completely washed away, leaving the residents without any belongings. So we were able to go into the tent cities that the government had set up and partner with churches there and help pastors in whichever way they needed help. For one pastor, we bought him a pig. For another pastor, we set up a garden. And one night we had a service, and so we went to invite the residents of the tent cities to the service. And walking around the tent cities, they invited us into their homes, and they showed hospitality and kindness that I've never witnessed before, especially from people who have lost everything that they have. It was just a real eye-opening experience for me, and it's something I'll never forget. That evening, when we had the service, we didn't know it at the time, but the pastor had told us later that people from his normal congregation weren't there. It was mostly people that we had invited that day from the tent cities.
Bible college was in Cagayan de Oro, and we were blessed to be able to be a part of it actually. As we got to work at the college and we're digging and doing all that kind of thing, at least 6 or 7 pastors were there. It was just amazing to see the dedication they had to it, because they understood that this wasn't just a college, this wasn't just a school or a building or something that to take up their time. They could be with their families, they could be doing a lot. But all these guys believed in this place so much that they were there tampering and digging and carrying dirt and doing everything they possibly could to get this going, because they themselves had been so blessed to be a part of it, and they knew that within this college was just going to grow many just talented pastors that were going to help their community. Each one of them are involved in feeding programs, outreaches. It was amazing to see that despite, you know, the suffering they were going through, or the flood that happened and them losing most of their belongings, which a lot of them had, they still sacrificed their time and everything else that they had just to make that project go forward. So.
We were looking forward to returning to Bataan. Our team had been there a year ago, and we had initiated a gardening project with the King's Garden Children's Home, and we were excited to see how that was turning out. And the missionaries that we worked with last year, the Snows, had really just taken the next step with the garden, and it was reported that they were producing enough vegetables for the kids and able to sell some to the staff at a discounted price, and then taking the rest to market to make some money for to put back into the project and for other things. And while we were there this year, we were able to upgrade the garden with an irrigation system. So we helped buy those materials and put those materials in. We also had a great time with the kids. We played some sports with them, interacted with them. They remembered us from last year, and we remembered them from last year. And we had also a great time tie-dyeing t-shirts, and we painted the playground equipment for them, and they really seemed to get excited about that. But the most exciting thing that we did with them was the service that we had one night. We had asked to share with them, and Mary Beth preached, and we did skits, and they did presentations for us. It was just a really good time of fellowship with each other and worship and just growing closer to the Lord.
The Seco was the last place we ministered. The team last year had started a container garden there, so we went and helped expand that a bit. We got barrels and filled them with the soil, but it wasn't quite time to plant, so the pastor took us around the community. The people there didn't have much, and we just went around praying and just seeing them, but the children just latched on to us, and it was really cool to see how much they loved us and they just wanted to be with us. And there was one little boy named Raphael that was deaf and mute, so we couldn't communicate with him in that way, but he was always smiling. Like, he was so happy and he loved just playing with us, and it just really impacted me, those type of things for those people, because it wasn't about what they didn't have, but about what they had in Christ, and they had such joy. The pastor's story really inspired me because he has a college degree, he had a really good job, and he felt called to minister to these people, so he moved his family to this community, and they started ministering, and they're wonderful. And they inspired me with how wonderful his wife and his daughter were doing children's ministry, and he was ministering and praying, and they just had such energy and passion for the people.
So many great projects took place, and we met so many great people, and God did so many great things. But for me as a leader, the best thing that I got out of this trip was so rewarding was that last year on the first day of our trip, we went to a squatter village called Baseco, and we worked with our feeding program, and we worked with the pastor there, and we met this precious little boy named Jason. And he had already become a recipient of our feeding program and was coming out of malnourishment and developing well, but it was more than him just being hungry and malnourished. He was in a very abusive home. And just on the day that we were there, it just happened that the pastor and the social workers and everything came to pass that it was time for Jason to leave that abusive home and go to a Christian orphanage that had started just the week before. And so we were able to be a part of that, and he went there. So that was on the first day of our trip last year. But on the last day of our trip this year, we returned to Baseco and worked with the pastor again. And then we got to go visit Jason at the children's home that he is currently at. And he is thriving. He is definitely no longer malnourished. He's getting to be a little bit on the plumper side. He smiles. He loves people. He loves Jesus. And he's about to be up for adoption. But the cool thing is that just before we had gone to visit him, they had taken him to visit his birth mom because they're still working on paperwork. And she says, "Oh, you may not remember me because it's been a little over a year." And he says, "Oh, Mama, of course I remember you. I pray for you every day." And so this little boy is he's not just fed and no longer malnourished, but he knows the love and heart of Jesus. And he's about to go into a loving Christian family. Much to do with because of the pastor that we partner with as Convoy of Hope.